those who were involved in making it come to life. Join us as we go behind the door.
Good evening, roomies, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Door with the Grey Rooms podcast. I am your host, Brooks Bigley, and with me tonight is Diggs Brown, the author of Season 4, Episode 4, entitled Check In. How are you this evening, Diggs?
I'm doing good. I've been on trains all day. I'm excited to be on another one here with you tonight.
Yes. Have you seen any scary dead things outside the windows of the said train that you were on?
You know what? I'm in New York, so yes. Yes, I have.
Oh, that's just a normal, typical New York day is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's regular. You see some squished fellas under the tracks and some, spooky stuff.
I have been to Grand Central Station. I have seen those squishy dead things you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very fun, but hey, it's conducive to horror, so that's
100%.
what we are here for. Man, your story was fun as hell to read, and I was so excited. I was excited to know, oh my god, we're gonna produce this into an audio production. You had so many, cool little scenes that I guess her name Donna doesn't get used in the audio, but we know it from the script.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, you painted such a beautiful picture moving around this weird, haunted room, and I have so many questions for you about it.
I'm so excited that you were this excited about it. Thank you.
Yes, because when I read it, it gave me just this really creepy vibe of this is so normal. I can see absolutely anybody going through this scenario. It almost to me was like this pop-up hotel just out of nowhere. It was just randomly sitting there for her to visit. So this was a really good episode of Twilight Zone. It was really fun to read knowing we were about to bring it into production. How did you feel hearing it as a story?
Oh man, this was very exciting for me. So I am a screenwriter and a voice actor. That's my goal. Well, it's right now it's freelance and on the side. I got a day job, but that is what I do. And so I write a lot of television and write a lot of pilots and stuff like that. So a lot of the times you're just writing your pilot and maybe you get a table read or something, but you never really get a full production, especially this early on in a career of that. So being able to hear something fully produced was I listened to it at work, and my one boss who was sitting near me was like, "You okay?" I'm like, "I just need to step away for a minute."
Yeah, to really to absorb those feelings that you were having over hearing your written works turned into something like that. So this is the first time that you've had a body of writing that has been turned into a production?
So I've done a couple of things. So I published a novel over the pandemic. That was my money making for that period of time. And then I myself work on a couple of other podcasts. I just wrapped on a show called Genre Blind. We just had our series finale. And we did a Halloween special. And so that was all written horror fiction and produced, but it's sort of different when it's just you and your coworkers doing it versus this is a whole production team, a much more professional production team, and it's hearing what another actor, another director has done with it. And specifically Tanya's performance was that's oh wow. Thank you, Donna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tanya is such an amazing actor. She's been in many different podcasts, and she's been in a lot of our episodes. Yeah. But she has a really good beat on just being a very average, normal human. I don't think I've heard her to be an evil person or the monster or the demon, but she's always been the human going through it, and she's so fantastic at it.
I was so excited to hear her as Donna.
Absolutely. Well, then let's get into talking about check-in then. So, as I always ask, where was the seed idea? Where did it start from?
So it started as a very normal point of inspiration, and then has become sort of an overwhelming running joke. In that I was staying at my aunt and uncle's house, and their house is not a rundown motel by any means. It's quite a nice house, but the way their guest room is configured is that when you're sitting on the bed, you can see directly into the bathroom in there, and they have this sort of glass shower. And you don't want to shut the door when there's still sort of steam in the bathroom, so you just leave it open. You try and go to bed, and you have the light of the TV on, and you can sort of just see the glass of the shower, and just like staring at it and staring at it. It was like, there's nothing I could really do if something was in there. Like, that would just be it,
How old were you when this happened?
Oh, this was maybe like a year ago.
Oh, okay. Because that reminded me when I was young. I was like, 8, 9, or 10, and I remember the magic was that the second that you pulled the bed sheets over you, you were fully protected from anything.
Safe. Yeah. You're safe unless you're not. But it was very much that thing of like, I'm sitting there, and like this wasn't like a terror of like, oh God, now I'm super scared in my aunt and uncle's house. It was more of like this is a situation, right? Like this is a premise for something.
Yes.
This is a premise, and the layout of that bedroom is exactly the same as the motel room, where there's the bed facing the bathroom and the dresser on either side, and then the window to, in my imagination, the left and the door to the right. But like that's just how that room was configured, and that's all well and good. I wrote the story there, literally submitted it a couple days after I wrote it, because it happened to be when submissions were open, and then my parents bought a new condo, and they sort of like custom built all of this stuff, and they're like, oh, check out our bathroom. It is a massive glass box that there's just, it literally looks like the room from, it looks like where they keep Hannibal Lecter, but there's also like various shampoos and a shower head and stuff.
Oh, yes, I know what you mean.
Yes, it's a gorgeous, like, shower. It's lovely. But I'm sitting there, looking at this, and they're like, oh, when's your podcast episode coming out? And I'm like, funny story. Apparently for you guys, every day.
What?
And they're like, oh, do you want to use our shower? I'm like, I most certainly do not.
Yeah,
Thank
not
you.
even. Don't even want to look at it. No, thank you. There's other people currently using it that I can see.
Yeah, it's occupied. I gotta go.
Exactly. So you said you wrote this though at your aunt and uncle's house.
Yes, I did.
How did you then decide? Well, I need to make the scene in a motel versus in like a haunted house, or how did you slowly, after that idea was conceived, how did you slowly start to unravel it?
I love hotels, motels, Holiday Inns. I just that whole like that transient space is very appealing to me, as well as like this is a space where, and I actually am currently producing a novella that kind of touches on this a little bit. It's set in a rundown inn. It very much deals with when you are staying in a place like that, you are trusting that everyone around you is following the same social script as you. Like, you're trusting that your bellhop is just gonna like sit in the like lounge. You're trusting that your neighbors are gonna be normal. And even like for mundane things, you trust that they keep their television volume low and they don't let their kids run around. You're trusting that like people aren't doing tomfoolery in the hallways at all hours. But also, like, say you're staying there with a roommate, or like you're staying overnight. It's a business trip, right? It's a conference. You have someone else in the room. You're trusting that they're just gonna lay down and go to bed. And so when you're in a space like this and that social contract or that social script is like interrupted, you can't do much about it. Like, you have to stay at the motel, you have to check into the room, if the light's in the bathroom, you have to go. Like, it just, you're still on track, even if no one else is.
That sounds like there's like a low-grade anxiety there almost that like would only pop up, I guess, when things start to meander in the wrong direction. Like, yeah, I mean, we go about our daily lives, how you can talk on the phone while driving, basically. You don't realize how you took the exits, and when you're just going on autopilot.
Right.
We do that day in and day out.
Right.
So I could see what you're saying. Like, you just, if you're the kind of person that has to stay in motels a lot because of business or because of travel, yeah, there's, like you said, there's like a social contract almost that you're used to, that you and all these other people are all doing the exact same thing, going through the same motions together, and it all just works until it doesn't, and that's when shit goes off.
Yeah. And I for me, I was very drawn to stuff's not going off the rails because like you did something, like you were the odd actor, you're the stranger in a strange land. Things you can enter and do everything right, and it can still fall apart.
Right. And you know what was cool and interesting, now that you're saying that, now it's triggering in me as I'm thinking back on the story, that there were lots of little clues that Donna, I don't want to say she didn't pick up on, because she was definitely reacting like, well, that's weird, well, that's strange, but it wasn't enough to be like, I need to get the fuck out of here. So she wasn't reacting properly, I guess. Anyways, there were little clues here that were showing that normalcy, that things were deviating away from that, like walking in and the bellhop didn't bother asking her name, didn't bother putting her into the computer. When she asked for a key, he's like, there are no keys. You just push the door. Like, creepy, 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 creepy. And she's like, nah, yeah, I'll still go take this room, sure. Oh, yeah. And then he's like, oh, you can pay me in the morning. Well, that's fucking creepy as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it immediately started to like break away from what you would normally expect. You know, going through this type of adventure that she didn't even want to be there anyway. She was just stopping. Why? Because of the snowstorm, basically.
Yeah. It was storming. You can't drive down a mountain when it's storming. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's a whole other episode.
Staying in motels that just come out of nowhere is also kind of a bad idea too. But
yeah,
whatever.
It's not great.
We needed the story. So then,
well, no, they could have been the story could have been driving through a storm, and you can get fucked up there too.
That's true.
Sequel.
So when you the people who before they get to the motel, maybe like how the snowstorm sent them there or something. Yeah, that's
the car behind her on the road kept going.
There you go. So when did you start to then put together and flesh out? You're like, okay, character's going to come to this motel. How did you then determine, before I start saying things again, how did you start to then say, okay, well, I'm going to have her go through this series of motions, and then this is going to happen to her, and then how did you wrap that into the conclusion?
I mean, literally my only, guiding force was the scariest thing that can happen to you in a liminal space, in this in a motel, in a rest stop, whatever. Is it not being a liminal space and becoming a permanent home? That is the scary thing. So it was just kind of going in, if she sets foot in this motel, she's not leaving the motel. And that's it.
Right. And without explaining that, I think, I can only speak for me, but I'm assuming most listeners did get this too. As you're saying how you check in, but you can't check out. She
Hotel California on loop in lobby.
There you go. Eagles all the way. She it was almost like she knew before the end of the story that she was now going to be stuck in this, because there was some kind of repetitious cycle happening where she knocked on the doors, and then you could clearly hear help me.
Graham did so good there.
Yeah,
that was great.
Exactly. Yeah. And so she's like, I'm all right, sorry, I'm moving on. But ultimately she gets her room, but then that happens to her. And then she sees the stuff in the shower, blah, blah, blah. And then she breaks the window by accident. But then she's in the shower, and then someone else comes in, and then they wig out seeing something. It was almost like this horror Quantum Leap. I mean, we always joke that we are a marriage between Tales from the Crypt and Quantum Leap, but you did that actually in the story almost. She's just stuck going through this. So am I getting close to kind of what you were trying to portray here? Okay.
No, definitely. This is a much lighter example, but for years and years, I was in marching band, and we used to have this thing called One More Once, which is, it's the very end of the night. It's completely black outside. We're just using the stadium lights. It's freezing. You're holding metal instruments. It's the worst thing that you can be doing. And your band director says, all right, we're going to run the show one more once. And one more once doesn't mean one more once. One more once means we're going to run it now, and then again, and then again, and then again, until parents start honking in the parking lot saying, it's a school night, let my son out. And so something being cyclical to me, at least in my head, someone who does marching band, or did marching band rather, that's torture. That is that is the torture. That is the thing. And it's that, like you were saying, she knows before the end of it that, something's wrong. And even before the actual episode ends, she sort of understands where she is in that place. And it's that dread thing of when they say one more once, what that means. You don't have to be on the 7th repetition to know how bad it's going to feel. You just hear that. And it's the same as I have a whole principle where I do not believe in spoilers. I don't think things can be spoiled, because I maintain that if something is a good enough piece of media or a good enough piece of content, you can know everything that's going to happen in it and still enjoy it. Like, if something is spoiled by simply knowing plot points, then, like, you know, it's just the surprise that's pulling you through, right? Like a jump scare. It's not super in-depth. And so, for me, I really like the dread of, like, oh, you're watching a movie and you know at some point this character is going to get his heart broken and, lose his job, right? And that's like the twist. But you know from the beginning, so you feel that in the pit of your stomach, and you watch and you wait the whole time for it to happen. Or a good thing, like, I know eventually these two characters are going to kiss in the rain and it's going to be beautiful, and I'm waiting the whole time for them to kiss in the rain, right? I operate on that principle.
Wow, I never thought about that. I absolutely agree that, like, you could be watching a scene and then the jump scare happens and you're like, oh, fuck, that scared the shit out of me. And you're like, yeah. Bravo, that was great. But that's a very quick burst of energy, and then it dissipates and you're done. You're on to the next scene. But
and it might not have even be earned.
Mm-hmm. Right. If it's not a slow burn, but if it's a slow creep towards the inevitable thing that's going to happen, and you know it as the watcher, you know it's happening, man, that is infinitely more scary, because, like you said, it's then the dread is inside you, and you're like, oh fuck, don't open that door. No, don't open that door. I saw what went in there. Don't go in there. That's way more scary than just la la la, flowers and Care Bears, and then you walk in the door and there's a monster, you're like, ah! Yeah, that's not as scary.
It's the dramatic irony thing. You've got the kid who loves horror movies and Scream sitting on the couch yelling, like, look behind you, as Ghostface goes up to him behind. And so it's that, like, layer upon layer of, like, you dumb bitch. Exactly. Telling her, you look behind you. But then here I am yelling that at my TV. Should I look behind me? Probably.
Oh, it's so existential. Yeah, this is great. When you were still conceptualizing the plot and trying to finish it out, like, at what point she's alive, but clearly she's dead now. Something has shifted. She's no longer a living person, because she's going to be stuck in this cycle now. So did the action of her, like, when did she turn the shower? No, she didn't turn the shower on until she had broken the window and then gotten the glass on her. So did somehow breaking the window precipitate this shift from alive to dead, or bringing her to another side? Or, like, when was that transition? Or am I not allowed to ask that?
I mean, that's one of the things that, for me, it's very much like you can read into it, like, wherever you think it falls, because I feel like there's several points that makes a lot of sense. Every action she takes in the hotel room is sort of sealing her in it a little bit more. It's very, eating your pomegranate seeds. So for me, I want that to be more dealer's choice, but I think there is a little bit of finality in the thing she didn't want to do entering the room was turn on the shower and get in it. And so when you eventually do the thing you least want to do, that's sort of a fate-sealing decision. But then again, every other moment leading up to that, she could have been trapped the second she opened the door. Even the door on the train, there's a lot of doors in this one.
The story too, to me, like you said, like, we can kind of take our own pieces from it, but I extrapolated from it just kind of this sense of, like, how do I put this to words, because it's all feelings bottled up in my head. I got the sense that this could be an allegory for just maybe working through like, if you're not taking care of something properly, like say there's an issue that you have to take care of, or there's a project that you need to finish for something, but you're procrastinating on it, or you're avoiding it. To me, what I got from it was this weird thing of, like, she got into that room, but she was just avoiding. She was very avoidant about everything with the setting, and ultimately, she still had to deal with it, and now she's stuck dealing with it forever. She's now on the other side. Instead of avoiding it, she's just a part of it, and now other people are going to come in, and they're going to try to avoid it, but they get sucked right into the same thing. She talks about seeing, multiple people shoulder to shoulder with her in this shower. basically when the next iteration of the next guy coming into that room, sees her as the way that she saw a ghost in the shower. It's just I can go in so many different directions. My brain's kind of hurting right now from trying to process all of it.
She doesn't want to drive in the storm, but she did.
Right.
She doesn't want to. She can't see herself staying in this room long, unpacking her bags, but here she is. She doesn't want to use the shower, but here she is. She doesn't want to. Yeah.
Yeah, she was so avoidant, and it just continued. And even that sense of that avoidancy adds more dread for me, because it's like, shit, she didn't just blindly run in like, this is fucking cool and it's fucking scary. Hope I see some ghosts tonight. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah, I love ghosts. I chose to stay in the clown motel.
Exactly.
I love it here.
Yeah, no one would want anything to happen to someone like that. That's just so boring. So having her being so avoidant really kind of was a testament to that, making it worse for her. It was just so much more impactful for her to go through it because she was trying so hard. There's, not to see the ghost and not to interact with everything. So, man, hats off to you for writing this story.
Thank you.
It really touched me, man.
I feel like I've made a litmus test for personal anxieties.
Yeah, that's what this is about. I am telling you, you've triggered me in so many weird ways that I'm still processing it. And I thought that by, I listened to the episode again like 2 more times today just before interviewing with you, just because I wanted to keep it fresh. And I thought that like I could get my brain in order to really flesh out with you what I was thinking. But I'm all over the map trying to conceptualize my own feelings of this story. So you did.
That's the highest compliment.
Yes, that's an amazing job on your part that you did that.
So much.
So what about the production now? Like, this was really different where JM kind of kept the score much more minimal. It was still there and it was driving it, but it wasn't melodic.
Oh, it was fabulous, too.
Yes. It was almost kind of like a part, like there is the scary window in the back and the weird-looking shower, and then there's JM's music. Like, it was all subtly blended together. There wasn't like a big, giant score just hammering music into your ear in the background.
I loved very much, the music to me felt almost like a musical theater vamp in a way, where you're sort of like building between things, and I very liked that as like an anticipation thing, and that felt really nice.
Yeah, there's something about the production of the story. I felt like I was listening to a like a horror TV show, and I had just closed my eyes and was just, or maybe like I was in my room and I just wasn't looking at the TV. But listening to it, it just seems so much like a really well done episode from some kind of TV horror anthology, versus just like a lot of the times we just have like these like either a very massive action-packed story, or we have like a slow burn, like you got to think methodically about it. But your story just emotionally fucked me. I keep running out of things to say here.
How that was a question I had, just as a, I work in the audio medium. I also work in television, and I do listen to this show. How was like production wise? Because I know this was a little less like you're saying, it's less action. It's a little more just like description, a little more heady in a way. How was production? Like, how did it feel super different, or was it just like we've got
Jason
a new one?
Field day. No, see, sometimes, and that's what I meant. Like, we've done many action-packed stories, and so it's like, here comes this one, and we go through our motions to get it done because we're used to that. But yours was a more delicate story to encounter and flesh out. In audio-wise, I think Jason had a fantastic time because there's so many. You only have Tanya really performing with Graham providing the random voice here and there, and then Mark Whitten as the bellhop in the beginning. But it's all centered on Tanya, and kind of like our dentist story that we did previously, which was also just centered on one character in one room. Right. This is similar, but the room itself is a part of the story. So really, it's Tanya in the room. And so Jason had all kinds of different sound effects so that you really are like, well, I'm in this room with her. I hear the water dripping, and I hear even like the nuances of like her dragging her
the
suitcase.
Heels and the dragging the bag.
Yeah.
Felt so nice.
Yes. So Jason really got to shine there.
Jason needs an acting credit for this one.
Oh,
Jason as the motel room one.
As the motel. That's so funny. I should have put that in the show notes. Jason Wilson as the motel. But yeah, it was such an integral part of what she was interacting with. So he did such an amazing. I use amazing so many times. I should come up with new adjectives.
Deserved.
Okay, well, Jason, you're amazing. So he came up with such a unique way to let you experience all around you. In early days, Jason was always talking about wanting to give you the spatial awareness around his audio. And then, we've had so many stories that are just loud music and monsters and this and that. Your story to let him bring it right back in there and just really mess with the special effects and really test out tricking your brain. And he's been doing that all season now. We're 4 eps in and doing a phenomenal job.
Oh, some of these have been really nice. The sounds of the what are they called? In episode 1, the sounds of like the particular like suits and the head coming off and stuff, that sounded really nice.
Yeah, Jason's so good at the squishy, yucky sounds.
I noticed from the glass in the arm. I was like, yeah, he had his moment to shine there.
That's what I was just gonna say. There wasn't really much room in the story for that because gore was not the main focal point of your story. But that particular scene too, it's like, oh my god, I can hear the pieces of glass coming out of the skin and hitting the sink. It was beautiful, and to know some of the things that Jason has done. He's just a master at it, of combining certain sounds. He explained in a recent Behind the Door a while back about the sound of a ship, like a ghost ship coming up out of the water, and the things that he does to achieve these sound effects where you might hear it for just 5 seconds. You're like, oh yeah, that sounds like that thing. But if you knew what he had mixed and what he had done to get that sound to sound that way, you would be floored to know.
Yeah. Oh, Foley work is so impressive. I've done just a teensy amount of it for like some of the podcasts I'm on, but I have absolutely never used the actual sound of a thing to make the sound of a thing. It's always some bonkers setup to create a noise. So I can imagine with a production of this size how weird and creative one has to get with.
Yeah. I'll tell you a quick aside story. Many years ago, maybe 6-7 years ago, I was able to visit Lucasfilms in Marin. And, of course, I was warned, like, hey, if you actually see George Lucas walking around here, you're not allowed to walk up to him. You're not allowed to talk to him or you'll have to leave. So I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll just wave. I'll wave from afar. I don't care. Anyways, one of the cool things I got to see was one of their sound effects rooms. So just like what you're saying is that, like where they would physically go and hammer out different sounds and use different things to achieve sound effects and then record those and then just save them for whatever movies they need to use them for. So they showed us a couple things like in this movie, in this scene, you remember hearing this and this is how we did it. But they also had just absolute simple things. Like they had a real car door with like just the frame from the car, like nothing else from the car. So that they could just slam the door and then record that, and they can get that sound effect of a door slamming. So sometimes it really is the thing, but they're not like going out onto the street and recording a car.
It's an in-house.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun to kind of see that magic, and they didn't like break it for me because they didn't show us everything, but it was definitely fun to see how what makes it work that way.
There's a film. It's called Blowout. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a John Travolta film actually, but it's a thriller. It's about a Foley artist he's working on a horror movie and plot happens. But eventually the girl he's in love with is murdered, and she was on sort of like a sting operation, so she has all of their like camera and mic equipment attached to her. And she dies in that scene. And in his horror movie, to complete it, he uses her scream from her getting murdered because he never found a better one. Oh. And everyone's like, wow, this girl's fantastic. Can you bring her into the studio? He's like, I wish I could.
That's so cool.
It's really nice.
What's the famous scream? It's called like the Wilheim Scream or something.
Oh, the Wilhelm Scream? Yeah.
Wilhelm Scream. Thank you. I knew you would have to know something about that. Yeah, it was like the most perfect scream ever that has been used a bazillion times. But does anyone know who the original screamer was?
I guess Wilhelm.
I thought it was like the person that captured the recording or something.
Maybe. I genuinely don't know. My go-to scream references are always absolutely anything Barbara Crampton has ever been in. I think her scream is just absolutely phenomenal. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar's scream in I Know What You Did Last Summer, not when she's being killed, but when her hair gets cut.
You put that in the script.
I know I did.
And I was waiting, because if you didn't say that, I was about to say, I want to tell the listeners what you did. That thing about Sarah Michelle Gellar, you had that in the script. And when I read that, I was like, did we add this in there for like when we're going to record it, or did Diggs put that in there? You're the one that put that in there. That's so funny.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites. I think that's such a good scream. It's that like really good mix of like a guttural sound, but also that sort of like high pitched like teenage girl in a horror movie sound. Sarah Michelle Gellar can do no wrong.
It's like all of the screams. It's the most perfect marriage of any scream amalgamated together.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So can I ask you real quick, as we are coming to a close here, like what other things do you work on? You said you have worked with other podcasts or are currently. Are you allowed to talk about anything like that?
Yes, I can talk about all sorts of stuff. Right now I am in grad school for television writing and production. So I'm studying screenplay stuff and working sort of like low key in that industry, like through connections with that program and like internships and stuff like that. But then I have a lot of projects on the side. So I was the co-host for 2 seasons of a podcast called Genre Blind, that it's about tropes in media. So we go on TV tropes, we pull up a random trope and then discuss. And both of us, a lot of our touchstones are horror and sort of like weird media, a lot of Alan Resnick references and stuff like that. And we just wrapped on that, and our conclusion episode was actually a fiction episode. We did 2 seasons of that, and then with my same co-host from that, they are currently working on a series about like a museum of sound. So it's about a character who goes out and records, sounds. So like the impossible sounds, the sounds of like the end of a city, the sounds of invented life, like things that should not exist as sounds. So best of luck to their audio editor. But on that, I'm playing a doctor of like biotechnology, and so that's a very exciting thing for me. I love playing doctors.
Very cool.
I've in the past I have Victor Frankenstein about 3 times on my acting resume.
There you go. Okay, you're finding your niche a little bit.
Yeah, I have a type. But yeah, so I'm working on a lot of that, and then me and actually this same co-host are working on a novella that has an audio component. So the audio component would be mostly a direct audio book, but with some changes. And that is the one that deals with an inn and my comfort zone, which is, of course, cannibalism.
Nice. I'm going to have to check all of this out. I would like to know when all of this is available to listen to.
Yeah. Some of it's in the works. Some of it exists. It's all over the place.
So you really do appreciate and love podcasts. It sounds like this is something you're wanting to get more into.
I originally got into the Grey Rooms because Justin McElroy was on season 3. He did an episode. He was a voice there. I think that was the first time he was on it, and that's why I started listening to it. And I when I submitted my episode for this season, I was like, oh man, just to even work on a podcast that Justin has touched. And then I heard the first episode. I'm like, damn it, someone else got him. This is bullshit. I don't want Justin. No, but this cast was absolutely phenomenal. All my damn, I miss you, Justin are gone.
There you go. Yeah, I really hope that you. Our submissions are open now for season 5, so I hope that maybe we can get something from you. I mean, I'm not trying. When my grad school finals are done, you will hear from me. Sweet. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely am a huge fan. So like,
Thank
I would
you.
like to pursue. If you said you've written some stuff too, right? So if I look up the name Diggs Brown, I can find your writing.
You'll find some stuff. The novel I published is not in the horror genre. It was simply a money making experience. It is actually a romance novel.
Yeah, well, I'm living a romance, so I don't need to read about one. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's not my genre of choice. However, it is well paid, and so I did it, and it's under a different name. And so all of the proceeds from my book directly purchase and finance my cat. So it's all good.
I actually hate horror. I don't listen to horror. I don't read horror. I do this just because Jason pays me $200,000 a year. So
yeah, exactly.
This is why I'm here.
Yeah, why does anyone do anything? Literally the reason I took the job was like I write so much like visceral gore that I'm like I can describe the body in other ways. It's fine.
I mean, to each his own. Why not? You're a writer. You can put anything together, really. Yeah.
A couple of the notes from my editor were like, this sounds like you hate this and it's disgusting. And I'm like, well, I'm used to the people not enjoying it that much. So, like,
No, I got to ask you. Do you remember? So, oh gosh, there was the Pride and Prejudice story, but they did the
Pride and Prejudice
version.
And Zombies?
Yes. Can you do that with your romance story? Are you even allowed to do that? Can you can you take it and then turn a gore into it?
They are vampires.
Oh, it's about vampires.
Yeah, the fella is a vampire. It was gonna be two fellas, and then my editor said no, and I was mad, but it's okay because I made money.
Okay, there you go.
I'll get him in the end. Everything will be gay when I'm done with it.
There you go. Yay! That's awesome. We all got to do things to pay the bills. You're not suddenly going to be stuck being a romantic writer or only being known for writing romance novels.
No.
Don't even worry about that. I can definitely promise you that your horror seems, or I don't want to say horror per se, but this kind of dreadful story that you wrote, this is definitely going to be your bread and butter. So
thank you so much.
So before we come to a close, do you have any social medias that you want to share that can allow people to see kind of what you're up to with all of your creativity?
Yeah, absolutely. So on pretty much every platform, Instagram, Twitter, unfortunately TikTok, I am Memento Mortsafe, MEmentomortsafe, like the, a mortsafe that one puts on a grave, of course.
Sure.
I have linked in all of these. It's all of like link in bio. I have a website where I publish my writing, and then I do live streams every once in a while where I put on full special effects makeup and read real fucked up stuff. My TikTok is mostly like gothic literature jokes and references to 80s horror. So if that's your jam, it's there for you.
That's awesome. So then what I'll do is get after the show, you can give me all the stuff. I'd love to put in the show notes links and stuff to all of this for you so that everyone listening can go out and check you out.
Excellent.
Well, it was really fun having you here, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a great time.
So happy to have you part of the canon now of the Grey Rooms.
I love it. The worst part of it is trying to explain to my mom, no, I just wrote the second. No, it's going to be a whole episode, but the first half is someone else. No, I didn't write that part.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
You can get them into the Grey Room's narrative or something some other time.
Yeah, I'll get I might just send them the pre-screening because I don't know if my retired parents are ready for a whole experience.
There you go. I was just gonna say you could submit that to them because we won't be offended though if you are not telling them about the narrative. This is about you and your story. So,
thank you.
Yeah,
I'll get you 2 more listeners. I got you. Don't even worry.
Excellent. Well, it was great of you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time to sit and chat, and I thank you for sharing your world with us here in the Grey Rooms.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And as usual, the biggest thank you goes out to our fans and followers who listen daily and spread the good word of Bob. #StayGray. Take care and enjoy your evening digs.
You as well.
And good night, folks. Bye.
Join us each week after every episode for another edition of Behind